Imagine a place where winter isn't just a season, it's a way of life that spans 8 months of the year, where temperatures plummet to -50 F, -46 C, and wind speeds reach 100 miles per hour, creating conditions so brutal that exposed skin freezes solid in less than 2 minutes. This is the Arctic, home to the Inuit people for over 4,000 years. The Inuit inhabit one of Earth's most unforgiving environments, stretching across Alaska, northern Canada, and Greenland, a frozen wasteland where the sun disappears entirely for months at a time. Here, there are no trees for shelter, no soil to grow food, and no modern conveniences we take for granted. The nearest hospital might be 500 miles away, accessible only by small aircraft when weather permits. In this land of perpetual ice, survival isn't just about staying warm. It's about mastering an intricate web of skills passed down through countless generations. Every piece of clothing, every tool, every hunting technique represents thousands of years of refinement through trial and error, where mistakes meant death not just for individuals, but for entire family groups. The Inuit didn't just survive in these conditions, they thrived, developing a sophisticated culture, complex social structures, and an intimate relationship with their environment that allowed them to extract everything needed for life from a landscape that appears completely barren to outsiders. Their story isn't just about survival, it's about human adaptability pushed to its absolute limits. Let's start today's story. Find a comfortable place to settle in, pull that blanket a little tighter, and prepare to experience life at the very edge of human existence. Your eyes open to absolute blackness. Not the gentle darkness of a summer night, but the consuming void of Arctic winter where the sun hasn't appeared above the horizon for 63 days. The air inside your igloo hovers just above freezing, while outside the wind howls at -47 F, -44 C, with gusts that could knock a grown man flat. You lie perfectly still for a moment, listening to the sounds that mean life or death in this frozen world. The wind's pitch tells you it's coming from the northwest, the killing direction that can drop temperatures another 20 degrees in minutes. But there's something else, a subtle change in the rhythm that your grandmother taught you to recognize before you could walk. The storm is weakening. Beside you, your wife Siku breathes steadily, her body generating precious heat beneath the thick caribou hide blankets. Your son Nuka, only 8 years old, sleeps between you both, the warmest spot where a child's smaller body can maintain its core temperature through the night. His breathing is even and strong, a sound that fills you with relief every morning you hear it. Above your heads, the curved dome of your igloo seems to pulse with life. What most outsiders don't understand is that a properly built igloo is a living system. Your breath and body heat have created a thin layer of melt on the interior walls that refroze into a hard, insulating shell. The temperature differential between inside and outside has created a gentle air circulation that prevents carbon dioxide buildup while maintaining warmth. But you can sense something's wrong. The Quillic your seal oil lamp has burned lower than it should during the night. The flame that should dance steadily about 4 inches high has shrunk to barely 2 inches. This isn't just an inconvenience. In these temperatures, a failed lamp means death within hours. You slide your feet into your inner boots, feeling the soft fur lining that your wife spent weeks preparing last autumn. Every movement is deliberate and quiet. Waking your family unnecessarily wastes precious calories. Their bodies are burning to stay warm. Your thick winter parka hangs from a bone hook carved into the igloo wall, and you pull it on carefully, feeling the twin layers of caribou fur settle around your torso like armour against the cold. The parka isn't just clothing, it's a masterpiece of engineering that took your wife Siku nearly 3 months to complete. The inner layer sits with fur against your skin, creating a warm microclimate around your body. The outer layer faces fur outward, shedding wind and snow while allowing dangerous moisture to escape. Between the layers, carefully positioned air pockets trap warm air while creating channels for vapor to move away from your body. Your hands find the lamp by feel, a shallow stone bowl carved from soapstone, filled with rendered seal oil. The wick, made from twisted Arctic cotton and moss, has burned unevenly through the night. This is critical work that requires absolute precision. Too much oil, and you waste precious fuel while creating dangerous smoke. Too little, and the flame dies, taking your family's lives with it. As you adjust the wick with a thin bone tool, you notice your fingers responding sluggishly to your commands. The cold has crept deeper into the igloo than you'd like. You work quickly, but carefully, adding just enough oil to bring the flame back to its proper height. The yellow light spreads across the curved walls, and within minutes, you can feel the temperature beginning to rise. But the real work of the day hasn't even begun. Outside, you can hear sounds that make your blood run cold, the distinctive crack of shifting sea ice, punctuated by the deep groan of pressure ridges building and collapsing. The ice your family depends on for travel, hunting, and survival is moving, reshaping itself with forces that could crush a walrus like an eggshell. This is why your grandfather used to say that Inuit don't conquer the Arctic. They dance with it, learning its rhythms and moods like a hunter learns the breathing patterns of sleeping prey. One wrong step, one misread signal, and the dance becomes a death sentence. You step toward the igloo's entrance, a tunnel that slopes downward before rising to the surface. This design isn't accidental cold air sinks, creating a cold trap that keeps the warm air inside your living space. The entrance tunnel also serves as an airlock, preventing wind from blasting directly into your shelter when someone enters or leaves. As you crawl through the tunnel, the temperature drops with each foot you advance toward the outside world. By the time you reach the entrance, your breath is forming clouds even through your warm parka. You pause at the opening, listening to the wind patterns and feeling the air pressure changes that tell you what kind of day you're about to face. The storm may be weakening, but the Arctic is never finished testing your will to survive. You emerge from the igloo into a world transformed overnight. The blizzard has sculpted new landscapes from wind and snow, creating ridges and valleys where flat ice existed just hours before. Your sled, buried beneath 3 feet of drift, appears as nothing more than a suspicious mound in the endless white expanse. But your eyes aren't looking at the obvious changes. You're reading the subtle language of ice and snow that means survival. The slight blue tinge in a snowdrift that indicates dangerous depth. The way wind patterns have carved specific shapes that reveal the ice thickness beneath. The barely perceptible change in snow texture that warns of hidden cracks. Your grandfather, Aput, taught you this language during 7 brutal winters when you were barely older than your son is now. The ice speaks, he would say, but only to those who listen with their whole body, not just their ears. This morning, the ice is telling you several crucial things. First, the pressure ridge that formed yesterday, about half a mile to the east, has grown larger. You can tell by the way the wind sound changes as it moves over the raised ice. Second, there's open water closer than there should be. You can't see it yet, but you can smell it, the distinctive scent of exposed seawater, mixing with the dry, sterile smell of wind-blown snow. Open water in winter means 2 things: opportunity and death. Seals need breathing holes, and where there's open water, there are seals. But open water also means unstable ice, invisible leads that can open without warning, and the ever-present risk of falling through ice that looks solid but isn't. You begin the morning ritual of snow assessment, a practice so essential that Inuit children learn it before they learn to walk properly. Taking a handful of snow, you squeeze it and watch how it behaves. This snow is perfect dry, packed, with the right consistency for igloo construction. More importantly, it tells you the temperature has been stable enough that surface conditions are trustworthy. The wind direction has shifted 3 degrees since yesterday, a change most people would never notice, but one that tells you the weather pattern is rotating. This could mean the storm is finally moving on, or it could mean an even larger storm is approaching from a different direction. Either way, today will be crucial for resupplying your family's food stores. You walk carefully around your igloo, checking for any structural changes caused by the night's wind. Ice construction might seem permanent to outsiders, but an igloo is a living shelter that responds to temperature, wind, and ground movement. You're looking for any slight sagging that might indicate weakness, any areas where the thermal dynamics have changed. The igloo has performed perfectly. The entrance tunnel shows no collapse, the dome remains structurally sound, and the ventilation hole at the top has maintained its proper size, large enough to prevent dangerous gas buildup, small enough to retain heat. Your wife's calculations when she helped you build this shelter were flawless. As you complete your inspection, you notice tracks in the snow near your sled. Arctic fox prints made sometime during the night when the wind died down enough for the animals to venture out. These tracks tell you several important things. The fox was hunting, which means there's prey in the area. The prey that attracts foxes' lemmings, small birds, fish scraps, also attracts the seals you need to hunt. More importantly, the fox tracks lead toward the southeast, in the same direction your own hunting instincts are telling you to go today. Animals often know things about weather, ice conditions, and food sources that humans can only sense indirectly. Following animal behavior isn't superstition, it's using every available source of information to make decisions that determine whether your family eats today or goes hungry. You pull your sled free from the snowdrift, checking each leather binding and bone joint that holds it together. This sled represents months of work caribou antler runners, shaped and smoothed, sealskin bindings that remain flexible in extreme cold, and a bed woven from walrus hide that can carry 500 pounds of gear and meat across rough ice. Every component has been tested by years of use and refined through countless repairs. The sled isn't just transportation, it's a mobile base camp that carries hunting weapons, emergency shelter materials, cooking supplies, repair tools, and the specialized equipment needed to survive on moving ice that might break apart without warning. As you load the sled with today's hunting gear, you're making calculations that would challenge a modern engineer. Weight distribution affects how the sled handles rough ice. The position of spears and harpoons determines how quickly you can respond to hunting opportunities. Every item's location is planned, so you can find it by feel in a blizzard when your life might depend on reaching the right tool in seconds. The morning hunt isn't just about finding food, it's about reading the ice, understanding wind patterns, predicting animal behavior, and making dozens of life or death decisions based on information most people would never notice. And you haven't even begun moving yet. Back inside the igloo, your family is beginning their own morning ritual. The careful process of dressing for a day where improper clothing means death. Siku helps young Nuka with his layers, each piece of clothing representing generations of refinement in Arctic survival technology. You watch as she pulls his Atigi inner parka over his head, adjusting it so the soft caribou fur sits properly against his skin. This inner layer is crucial for a child's survival. Children lose heat faster than adults because of their smaller body mass, making proper layering the difference between life and death during a day outdoors. Feel how the fur lies flat, Siku instructs Nuka, smoothing the inner parka against his chest. No bunching, no gaps where cold air can reach your skin. The fur becomes your second skin. The outer parka goes on next, a masterpiece that took Siku nearly 4 months to complete. The hood is designed with a wolverine fur ruff that doesn't frost up from breathing, unlike other furs that would create dangerous ice buildup around a child's face. The sleeves are cut to allow full arm movement while maintaining insulation, and the length is precisely calculated to provide maximum protection without interfering with walking. But the real innovation is in details most people would never notice. The wrists have adjustable fur cuffs that seal completely around Nuka's hands when he's not using them. The neck area features an overlapping design that prevents wind from entering even when he's bending over or looking down. Most importantly, the entire garment is designed to breathe, allowing dangerous moisture to escape while keeping warmth inside. Your own dressing ritual is equally precise. Your Inuit winter boots represent some of the most sophisticated cold weather footwear ever developed. The outer boot is made from sealskin with the fur on the outside, providing waterproof protection and traction on ice. Inside, a completely separate boot made from soft caribou fur creates a warm microenvironment for your feet. Between the two boots, you place grass insoles that your wife gathered and prepared last summer. This grass isn't random padding, it's a specific type of Arctic grass that remains flexible in extreme cold while wicking moisture away from your feet. Wet feet in these temperatures mean frostbite, amputation, or death. The boot construction includes features that wouldn't be out of place in modern technical footwear. The sole is shaped to provide maximum grip on ice while allowing natural foot flex. The ankle support is built in through precise cutting and sewing techniques that distribute weight evenly. Most remarkably, the entire boot can be quickly removed and dried if it gets wet, because every component separates cleanly from the others. Your hands require equal attention. Inner mittens made from soft bird skin sit next to your skin, followed by outer mittens constructed from sealskin with long cuffs that overlap your parka sleeves. The mittens connect to your parka with sinew cords, ensuring you can't lose them even if you need to remove them quickly while hunting. But the most critical piece of your clothing system is almost invisible: the way every component works together as a unified system. The parka length is calculated to overlap perfectly with your pants. Your pants are designed to integrate seamlessly with your boots. Your hood, mittens, and face protection create a sealed environment that maintains warmth while allowing clear vision and hearing. This integration isn't accidental. Each piece of clothing has been refined through thousands of years of life and death testing. Women like Siku spend their entire lives perfecting these techniques, because a mistake in clothing construction doesn't just mean discomfort, it means the death of someone they love. As you complete your dressing ritual, you perform the final check that could save your life, the mobility test. You bend, stretch, reach, and move through all the positions you might need during hunting. Any restriction in movement, any gap in coverage, any place where components don't work together smoothly gets adjusted now while you're still in the safety of your igloo. Siku performs the same check on Nuka's clothing, having him move through a series of positions while she watches for any problems. This isn't paranoia, it's the methodical approach that has kept Inuit families alive for millennia in conditions that kill unprepared people within hours. Your clothing isn't just protection from the cold. It's a life support system that allows human beings to function in an environment more hostile than the surface of Mars. And unlike modern technical clothing, every piece is made from materials your family hunted, trapped, and prepared themselves, using tools and techniques passed down through countless generations. The difference between properly dressed and improperly dressed in the Arctic isn't comfort, it's existence itself. Inside your stomach, hunger gnaws with the particular intensity that comes from burning calories faster than you can replace them. This isn't the casual hunger of missing a meal in a warm house. This is the deep, cellular craving that signals your body's desperate need for the fats and proteins that keep you alive in sub-zero temperatures. Your family's food stores are running lower than you'd like. Yesterday's unsuccessful hunt means today's meal depends entirely on what you can bring back from the ice. In the modern world, hunger is often a choice or a temporary inconvenience. In the Arctic, hunger is a countdown timer toward death, and that timer runs faster in cold weather than anywhere else on Earth. Siku prepares the morning meal with the precision of a pharmacist measuring medicine. Each portion is calculated not just for satisfaction, but for optimal caloric content and thermal effect. The breakfast consists of strips of dried seal meat, some blubber, and a small amount of dried berries saved from last summer's brief growing season. You watch Nuka eat his portion slowly, savouring each bite not because he's been taught good manners, but because his body instinctively knows this might be the only meal he gets today. Children in Inuit families learn early that food is never guaranteed, and waste is not just disrespectful, it's potentially lethal. The seal blubber might seem unappetizing to outsiders, but it's actually the most important component of the meal. Pure fat provides more than twice the calories per gram as protein or carbohydrates, and in extreme cold, your body can burn through 5,000 to 7,000 calories per day just maintaining core temperature. The blubber isn't just food, it's fuel for your internal furnace. But the psychological aspect of hunger in the Arctic goes beyond simple calorie counting. Hunger affects decision-making, reaction time, and judgment. All critical factors when hunting in conditions where a single mistake can be fatal. Your grandfather taught you that a hungry hunter is a dangerous hunter, not because he's aggressive, but because hunger makes people take risks they would normally avoid. This morning's meal planning involves complex calculations that would challenge a nutritionist. How much energy will today's hunt require? How long might you be away from shelter? What are the chances of successful hunting given current ice conditions? How much food should stay home with Siku and Nuka versus how much you should carry for emergency energy during the hunt? Siku adds a small piece of muktuk whale skin and blubber to your portion. This isn't favoritism, it's survival strategy. The muktuk provides concentrated nutrition and essential vitamins that prevent scurvy during the long winter months when plant foods are unavailable. More importantly, it provides the sustained energy needed for the physically demanding work of hunting in extreme conditions. As you eat, you're both fighting hunger and strategically fueling your body for the day ahead. Each bite serves multiple purposes: immediate energy, stored calories for sustained work, essential nutrients for health, and psychological satisfaction that keeps morale from crashing during the darkest months of winter. The eating ritual also serves social functions that are crucial for family survival. Sharing food reinforces bonds between family members who must depend completely on each other. The act of eating together, even when food is scarce, maintains the social structures that make group survival possible. Nuka asks if he can come on today's hunt, a question that tears at your heart. Part of you wants to bring him. He needs to learn these skills, and 8 years old isn't too young for a child to begin understanding how hunting works. But today's conditions are too dangerous, the ice too unstable, the distance too great for a child's shorter legs and smaller energy reserves. Next time, you tell him, meaning it. When the weather settles and the ice is more stable, it's not just a promise to a child, it's a commitment to passing on knowledge that has kept your people alive for thousands of years. The meal ends not because everyone is satisfied, but because the calculated portions have been consumed. In a modern home, people eat until full. In an Inuit winter camp, people eat precisely the amount needed for the work ahead, no more and no less. Every calorie is accounted for, every gram of fat allocated for specific survival needs. As you prepare to leave for the hunt, your stomach still carries the edge of hunger, but your body carries the fuel it needs to survive the day ahead. This is the balance that defines Arctic survival. Never quite enough, but always exactly what you need if you're smart, careful, and skilled enough to make it work. You step outside into air, so cold it feels solid, like walking into a wall of crystallized atmosphere. The thermometer, if you had one, would read -51 F, -46 classed C. But you don't need instruments to measure cold this extreme. Your body tells you everything. The way your nostrils stick together on the first breath, the immediate ache in your cheekbones, the sense that the air itself is trying to steal the heat from your lungs. But you're not thinking about the cold. You're reading the wind. To most people, wind is just moving air, uncomfortable, annoying, something to shelter from. To an Inuit hunter, wind is a language more complex than any spoken tongue, carrying information about ice conditions, animal movements, weather changes, and survival opportunities across hundreds of miles of Arctic terrain. This morning's wind tells you a story. It's coming from the northwest at approximately 25 miles per hour, strong enough to create ground blizzard conditions, but not strong enough to make hunting impossible. The steady nature of the wind, without the gusting that characterized yesterday's storm, indicates the weather pattern is stabilizing. More importantly, you can smell what the wind carries. There's the sharp, clean scent of fresh sea ice mixed with the slightly oily smell that indicates seal breathing holes somewhere upwind. Underneath those obvious scents, you detect something that makes your pulse quicken, the faint but unmistakable odor of a recent kill. Something has made a successful hunt upwind from your camp, and scavengers are working on the remains. This could mean several things: wolves, Arctic foxes, or ravens feeding on a natural death. But it could also mean another hunter's kill, which would indicate safe travel conditions in that direction, and possible opportunities for trading or cooperation. The wind direction also affects your hunting strategy in ways that would never occur to someone unfamiliar with Arctic hunting. Seals have incredibly acute hearing and smell, evolved to detect polar bear footsteps on ice from remarkable distances. Approaching downwind of a seal's breathing hole is nearly impossible. The animal will sense your presence long before you can get within harpoon range. But this wind direction is actually perfect for your planned hunting route. The ice conditions you observed yesterday, combined with this morning's wind patterns, suggest the seals will be concentrated in an area about 2 miles southeast of your camp. The wind will carry your scent away from the hunting area while bringing you information about animal activity. You harness your dogs with the same attention to wind considerations. Today you'll take only your 3 strongest animals, Taku, Nanook, and Siku's namesake, the small but incredibly tough female who leads the team. Fewer dogs mean less food consumption and quieter approach to hunting areas, but they also mean less pulling power if you need to transport heavy game back to camp. The dogs themselves read the wind differently than you do, but their information is equally valuable. Taku's ears perk forward and slightly to the east, indicating he's detected sounds from that direction. Probably the scavenger activity you smelled earlier. Nanook keeps looking back toward camp, suggesting his instincts are telling him today might be dangerous. You've learned to trust your dog's instincts because their senses detect things human perception misses. Their hearing picks up ice movement, animal calls, and weather changes at distances far beyond human capability. Their sense of smell provides detailed information about other animals, recent activities, and approaching weather that even experienced hunters can't match. As you finalize your preparations, the wind shifts slightly more toward the east. This small change alters your entire hunting strategy. The new wind direction means you'll approach the hunting area from a different angle, use different techniques for staying downwind of prey, and potentially find seals in breathing holes that weren't active yesterday. Wind in the Arctic isn't just weather, it's intelligence gathering, navigation assistance, hunting strategy, and survival information all combined into one constantly changing data stream. Learning to read wind takes decades of practice, and mastering its lessons can mean the difference between a successful hunt that feeds your family and a dangerous day that ends in disaster. Your grandfather used to say that Inuit hunters don't fight the wind. They become partners with it, learning to use its moods and messages as tools for survival. As you begin moving across the ice, the wind becomes your hunting companion, guide, and source of crucial information that no modern instrument could provide. Your sled moves across the ice with a rhythm that seems simple but represents thousands of years of engineering refinement. Each component, the curved runners made from caribou antler, the flexible bed woven from walrus hide, the precise weight distribution of your hunting gear, has been calculated and tested through countless generations of Arctic travel. But travelling on sea ice isn't like walking on solid ground. The ice beneath your sled is a living, moving platform that can change from solid highway to deadly trap without warning. Every step requires calculations that would challenge a structural engineer. Ice thickness, load distribution, temperature effects, and the complex physics of frozen seawater under stress. You're currently crossing ice that's approximately 18 inches thick, solid enough to support you, your sled, and your dogs, but thin enough that you can hear the subtle sounds of water movement underneath. Thicker ice is safer, but often indicates older, more unstable formations that might include pressure ridges, thin spots, or areas where current activity has created dangerous conditions. The mathematics of safe ice travel involve factors most people never consider. Ice strength isn't just about thickness. It depends on temperature, age, salinity, snow cover, and current activity below. New ice at -10 F might support more weight than old ice at -30 F, depending on how it formed and what stresses it's been subjected to. Your dogs understand ice safety instinctively in ways that complement your learned knowledge. Taku, your lead dog, automatically adjusts his pace when crossing suspect ice, distributing the team's weight more evenly across potential weak spots. The dog's broader paw surface distributes their weight better than your boots, making them natural ice safety experts. Every few hundred yards, you stop to assess conditions ahead. This isn't overcaution. It's methodical risk management based on reading dozens of visual and auditory clues that indicate ice stability. The colour of the ice tells you about its thickness and composition. Blue-white ice is typically solid and trustworthy. Grey or green-tinted ice often indicates thin spots or recent formation that might not support weight. The sound of your sled runners on ice provides constant feedback about conditions. A crisp, clean sound indicates solid ice with good surface conditions. A hollow or echoing sound suggests thinner ice or air spaces underneath. Any creaking or groaning sounds mean immediate attention to route changes and weight distribution. You navigate by landmarks that would be invisible to outsiders. The way wind patterns create specific snow formations around pressure ridges, the subtle colour changes that indicate different ice thicknesses, the barely perceptible ridges and valleys that show current flow patterns beneath the ice. But the most complex calculations involve predicting ice behaviour over time. The ice you're travelling on now will be different ice by the time you return this afternoon. Temperature changes, wind effects, and tidal movements will alter its strength, thickness, and stability. Your return route must account for these predicted changes, requiring you to think several steps ahead like a chess master. The weight distribution on your sled follows principles that Arctic peoples have refined for millennia. Heavy items like hunting tools go in the center, where they're most stable and provide optimal balance. Lighter emergency gear goes toward the back, where it's easily accessible but doesn't affect steering. Food and fuel go in the front, where their weight helps the sled track properly through rough ice. Your navigation combines multiple information sources: wind direction, sun position when visible, snowdrift patterns, distant landmarks, and the subtle magnetic variations that experienced Arctic travelers can sense. Modern GPS would be useless here. Even if you had it, electronic equipment fails in extreme cold, and satellite coverage is unreliable at these latitudes. As you travel, you're constantly making micro-adjustments based on ice feedback. A slight change in sled handling might indicate softer ice ahead. A different sound from the runners suggests surface condition changes. The dog's behavior provides early warning about obstacles, thin spots, or dangerous conditions they detect before human senses can identify them. This isn't just transportation, it's a complex dance between human skill, animal instinct, and environmental awareness that allows travel across terrain that would be impossible for anyone lacking generations of inherited knowledge and experience. 2 hours into your journey, you reach the area where wind and instinct have guided you. A section of ice where subtle signs suggest seal activity beneath. Here, the mathematics of travel give way to the art of hunting, and your role transforms from navigator to predator in one of nature's most challenging environments. You secure your dogs at a safe distance, their presence a comfort, but their scent and movement a potential hunting liability. Seals possess hearing so acute they can detect a hunter's heartbeat through solid ice. Your approach to their breathing holes must be absolutely silent, patient, and precisely calculated. The first step is reading the ice for signs of seal activity. You're looking for breathing holes, small openings in the ice where seals surface for air. But not all holes are active, and approaching an abandoned hole means hours of wasted effort in temperatures that can kill you if you remain motionless too long. Active breathing holes show subtle signs that most people would never notice. A slightly different ice formation around the opening, indicating recent use. Scratches on the ice surface where seals have hauled themselves up. Most importantly, the faint but distinctive scent of mammal breath and sea life that indicates recent activity. You find 3 potential holes within a 1/4 mile radius. Now comes the crucial decision. Which hole offers the best combination of active use, safe approach, and successful hunting position? This choice will determine whether your family eats today or faces another day of dangerously low food stores. The hole you select shows all the positive signs: fresh scratches, recent ice formation, and a position that allows downwind approach. More importantly, the ice around it is thick enough to support your weight during the patient waiting that successful seal hunting requires. You begin the approach, a process that can take over an hour to cover the final 100 yards. Each step must be placed silently, your weight distributed to avoid creating vibrations that travel through the ice. Your breathing must be controlled to prevent visible vapor clouds. Your scent must remain downwind from the hole. This is where seal hunting becomes meditation. You must maintain perfect stillness for hours, if necessary, ready to react with lightning precision when a seal surfaces. The cold seeps into your body despite your perfect clothing, and you must fight it without moving, without generating warmth through motion that might alert your prey. Your hunting position is carefully calculated, close enough to the breathing hole for an accurate harpoon throw, far enough away to avoid detection, positioned so that wind carries your scent away from the area. You've set yourself up like a precision instrument, every factor optimized for that brief moment when a seal's head appears. The waiting begins. In this position, you become part of the ice, part of the landscape, completely still, except for the minimal movements required to maintain circulation and prevent frostbite. Your eyes never leave the breathing hole. Your harpoon remains ready for instant use. Your body fights the cold while your mind enters the hunter's trance that makes prolonged stillness possible. This isn't just hunting, it's a form of active meditation that connects you directly to your environment and your prey. You must think like a seal, predict its behavior, anticipate its needs. You must become so attuned to your surroundings that you can detect the subtle changes that indicate a seal's approach long before it surfaces. Time moves differently during hunting meditation. Minutes feel like hours, but hours can pass like minutes when you're completely focused on that single point where life and death, success and failure, your family's survival and starvation will be determined by split-second reactions honed through years of practice. The cold becomes your enemy and your ally, painful and dangerous. But also the force that drives seals to surface regularly for air, creating the hunting opportunities that make this ambush possible. You use the cold, work with it, make it part of your hunting strategy, rather than simply something to endure. A slight change in the water's surface tension at the breathing hole signals what your body has been waiting for through nearly 2 hours of motionless vigil. The change is so subtle that only someone who has spent thousands of hours watching breathing holes would notice it. A barely perceptible shift in how light reflects off the dark water. Your grip tightens imperceptibly on the harpoon, muscles coiling for the throw that must be perfect. There will be no second chance. Seals surface for only seconds, just long enough to fill their lungs before disappearing again into the dark water beneath the ice. Miss this opportunity, and the animal might not return for hours, or might never return to this hole at all. The water ripples slightly. Your heart rate increases, but your breathing remains controlled, silent. Too much excitement now will create visible vapor clouds, or cause the slight body movements that seals can detect through vibrations in the ice. You must be simultaneously completely ready and completely calm. A dark shape rises in the breathing hole, just the tip of a seal's nose testing the air above the surface. This is the most critical moment. The seal is checking for danger, using senses far more acute than human perception to detect any threat. Your scent, your breathing, your heartbeat, any sound or movement you've made in the last hour could alert the animal and end the hunt. Seconds pass. The nose disappears, and you wonder if you've been detected. But then the seal surfaces fully, a beautiful ribbon seal, its distinctive white stripes visible even in the Arctic's limited light. The animal is larger than you had hoped, probably weighing close to 200 pounds. Success here means substantial food for your family and valuable materials for tools and clothing. The seal turns slightly, presenting the perfect angle for a harpoon throw. This is it, the moment when hours of patience, years of training, and generations of inherited knowledge either pay off or fail completely. Your throw is instinctive, powered by muscle memory, developed through countless practice sessions and real hunts. The harpoon flies in a perfect arc, its bone point striking the seal just behind the head, the placement that ensures immediate death without damaging valuable meat or hide. But killing the seal is only half the challenge. Now, you must prevent the animal from sinking into the dark water beneath the ice, where its body weight would make retrieval impossible. The harpoon line, attached to your body and to a float made from an inflated seal bladder, creates the connection that will allow you to pull the animal up onto the ice. The seal's death throes create violent splashing and pulling that tests your strength and your equipment. The line must hold. Your footing on the ice must remain secure while you battle against the animal's weight and the slippery conditions around the breathing hole. You brace yourself and begin the careful process of hauling the seal up through the hole. This requires precise technique, too much force, and the line might break or the seal's body might be damaged against the ice edge. Too little force, and the animal's weight will drag it back down into the water, where it will be lost forever. The seal weighs nearly 200 pounds of dead weight, made heavier by water and more difficult to handle because of your bulky winter clothing. But your muscles have been conditioned by years of this work, and your technique has been refined through hundreds of successful hunts. Gradually, working with steady pressure rather than sudden jerks, you bring the seal up onto the solid ice. The animal is beautiful, even in death. Its ribbon seal markings distinct and perfect. Its body fat and healthy despite the winter season. This is exactly the kind of success your family desperately needed. But the work is far from over. Now you must process the seal quickly and efficiently, making use of every part of the animal while working in temperatures that freeze exposed skin in minutes. Every cut must be precise. Every decision about what to take and what to cache must be calculated, based on your sled's carrying capacity and your family's immediate needs. The processing begins with removing the hide in one continuous piece, a skill that requires years of practice to master. The hide will become clothing, rope, containers, and a dozen other essential items. Beneath the hide, a thick layer of blubber provides the concentrated nutrition your family needs to survive the Arctic winter. You work methodically through the familiar routine, separating meat by type and quality, setting aside organs that provide essential vitamins, carefully removing sinew that will become thread for sewing, collecting bones that will be shaped into tools and weapons. Nothing is wasted, because waste means death in an environment this unforgiving. The blood, which would be discarded in most cultures, becomes an essential part of your survival diet. Mixed with fat and frozen, it creates a nutrition source rich in iron and other minerals that prevent scurvy and other deficiency diseases during the long months when plant foods are unavailable. As you work, you're also watching the weather and ice conditions. Processing a large seal takes time, and conditions can change rapidly while you're focused on detailed work. The wind has shifted slightly, and you can feel the temperature dropping further. You need to complete this work and begin the journey home before conditions deteriorate. Your dogs, secured at a safe distance, can smell the successful hunt. Their excitement is visible in their body language, but they remain disciplined, waiting for your command. They know that hunting success means better food for them too, and their patience during your long hunt has been perfect. The seal provides more than just food, it provides hope. Success today means your family can survive several more days while you plan the next hunt. It means Nuka can have full meals while his growing body demands extra nutrition. It means Siku can maintain her strength for the demanding work of processing, cooking, and maintaining your family's survival systems. But most importantly, this successful hunt validates the knowledge and skills passed down through countless generations of your ancestors. Every technique you use today, from reading ice conditions to making the perfect harpoon throw, represents thousands of years of accumulated wisdom that has kept your people alive in impossible conditions. Loading the seal onto your sled requires careful engineering to maintain proper weight distribution while maximizing what you can transport. The processed meat, hide, and blubber represent nearly 300 pounds of materials, but your sled can safely carry only about 200 pounds across uncertain ice conditions without risking structural failure or dangerous instability. This means difficult decisions about what to take immediately and what to cache for later retrieval. You wrap the most essential items, prime meat cuts, blubber for lamp fuel, and the valuable hide in the seal's own skin to protect them from wind and contamination. The remaining materials get buried in a carefully constructed cache that will protect them from scavengers while remaining accessible for future trips. Your cache construction follows techniques refined over generations of Arctic survival. The location is marked with subtle signs that you'll recognize, but that won't attract unwanted attention from other predators. The depth provides protection from surface scavengers while remaining above the permafrost level where retrieval would be impossible. The covering materials will shed snow and water while allowing air circulation that prevents spoilage. The return journey begins with different challenges than your outbound trip. The added weight changes how your sled handles rough ice, requiring adjusted speed and route selection. More importantly, the ice conditions have changed during the hours you spent hunting. Temperature fluctuations, wind effects, and the natural movement of sea ice have altered the safety and navigability of your route. You begin with a careful assessment of current conditions compared to what you observed this morning. The ice near your hunting area shows new stress patterns, subtle ridges, and colour changes that indicate shifting underneath. Your original route might no longer be safe, requiring navigation adjustments that add distance, but ensure you can get your precious cargo home safely. Your dogs sense the successful hunt and the urgency of getting home before conditions deteriorate further. Taku, your lead dog, maintains a steady pace that balances speed with safety fast enough to minimize exposure time, slow enough to allow careful route selection across changing ice conditions. The wind has increased since morning, creating ground blizzard conditions that reduce visibility to less than 50 yards. In whiteout conditions like these, navigation becomes a combination of compass sense, wind direction awareness, and intimate familiarity with the landscape. Modern GPS would be useless even if you had it. The cold would kill the batteries within minutes, and the blowing snow would make the screen unreadable. Instead, you navigate using techniques that have guided Arctic travelers for thousands of years. The wind direction remains consistent from the northwest, providing a reliable directional reference. Snowdrift patterns around obstacles create recognizable landmarks for someone who knows how to read them. Most importantly, your dogs possess an uncanny ability to find their way home across featureless terrain in conditions that would leave human navigators completely lost. Halfway home, you encounter a problem that tests every aspect of your Arctic survival skills. A leader crack in the ice exposing open water has opened across your planned route. The lead is too wide to cross safely with your loaded sled, too long to go around quickly, and too dangerous to risk with valuable cargo and limited daylight remaining. This is the kind of situation that separates experienced Arctic travelers from those who die in the wilderness. The lead might be temporarily caused by shifting tides or pressure changes that could reverse within hours. Or it might be the beginning of major ice breakup that could leave you stranded on the wrong side with no safe route home. You study the lead carefully, looking for signs of its stability and direction of movement. The water is dark, indicating significant depth. The ice edges are clean, suggesting recent formation rather than an old lead that's been refreezing. Most concerning, you can see current movement in the water, indicating active flow that might widen the lead further. Your decision must balance multiple risk factors: the danger of trying to cross versus the danger of taking a longer route in deteriorating weather, the risk of losing your cargo versus the risk of being caught away from shelter overnight, the certainty of current conditions versus the uncertainty of how quickly they might change. After careful consideration, you decide on a route that follows the lead to the east, looking for a place where recent ice formation has created a stable bridge. This adds significant distance to your journey, but provides the safest way to get your family's survival supplies home. Following the lead eastward for nearly a mile, you find what you've been hoping for. A place where wind and current have pushed ice floes together, creating a natural bridge across the open water. But crossing requires careful assessment of the bridge's stability and load-bearing capacity. The ice bridge appears to be about 15 feet wide and roughly 30 feet long, adequate distance for crossing. But you need to determine whether it can support the combined weight of you, your dogs, and your loaded sled. Ice bridge evaluation is one of the most critical skills in Arctic travel, because a wrong assessment means plunging through ice into water that will kill you within minutes. You study the bridge's colour and surface texture. Good ice shows a blue-white colour with a relatively smooth, solid surface. Dangerous ice appears grey or green, often with a rough or honeycomb texture that indicates weakness. This bridge shows mostly positive signs, but there are areas of concern where the colour seems less solid. The sound test comes next. You tap the ice with your harpoon handle, listening to the tone that indicates thickness and stability. Solid ice produces a clear, ringing sound. Thin or weak ice creates a hollow, echoing sound that warns of danger. The bridge produces mostly solid sounds, but with some variations that require careful route planning. Your dogs can sense ice stability in ways human perception misses, and their behavior provides crucial additional information. Taku approaches the bridge confidently but carefully, indicating his instincts suggest it's passable. Nanook shows more hesitation, suggesting caution but not panic. The female, smallest but most experienced, positions herself to follow rather than lead, indicating she trusts your judgment but remains ready for quick escape if conditions deteriorate. You decide to cross, but with maximum safety precautions. First, you redistribute weight on the sled to create the most stable configuration possible. Heavy items go to the center, lighter items to the outside, everything secured so that nothing can shift during crossing. Next, you adjust your dog's harness configuration to allow quick release if emergency separation becomes necessary. The crossing itself requires perfect technique and absolute concentration. You lead the team across slowly, testing each step for stability, while maintaining steady forward movement to avoid putting prolonged stress on any section of ice. Your weight distribution remains optimal, never putting full weight on one foot, always maintaining balance that allows quick movement if ice begins to fail. Halfway across, you hear a sound that makes your heart race, a subtle cracking noise from somewhere beneath your feet. This could be normal ice adjustment to loading, or it could be the first sign of structural failure. You pause momentarily to assess, but then continue moving, because stopping on questionable ice is often more dangerous than continuing with controlled movement. Your dogs sense the tension and respond with perfect discipline, maintaining steady pace and optimal spacing without any commands from you. Their training and instincts create exactly the behavior needed for safe crossing. No sudden movements, no pulling or hesitation, just smooth, coordinated progress across dangerous terrain. The far side of the bridge provides solid ice and safe haven, but you don't relax until you've moved well away from the lead and confirmed that your route home is clear. The successful crossing represents more than just obstacle navigation. It demonstrates the integration of knowledge, experience, and judgment that makes survival possible in conditions that would kill unprepared travelers within hours. Looking back at the ice bridge, you can see it's already showing more stress signs. The crossing window was probably brief, and waiting much longer might have made passage impossible. The timing was perfect, but only because years of experience have taught you to recognize the subtle signs that indicate when conditions are right for calculated risks. The remaining journey home follows familiar terrain across ice you crossed this morning, but conditions have continued to deteriorate. The wind now carries snow that creates near whiteout conditions, and the temperature has dropped another 10 degrees. Your successful hunt and safe crossing mean nothing if you can't complete the final miles to your family's shelter. The final 2 miles home become a navigation challenge that tests every aspect of your Arctic survival knowledge. Blowing snow has reduced visibility to less than 20 feet, creating whiteout conditions where every direction looks identical and familiar landmarks disappear completely in the swirling white chaos. In these conditions, most people would become completely lost within minutes, even traveling in familiar territory. The absence of visual references creates spatial disorientation that can send travelers walking in circles until exhaustion and cold kill them within sight of safety. But you possess navigation skills refined through generations of Arctic travel that make movement possible even when the world has become a featureless white void. Your primary navigation tool is the wind. Despite the blowing snow, the wind direction remains consistent from the northwest, providing a reliable compass reference. By maintaining a specific angle relative to the wind direction, you can travel in a straight line toward home even when you can't see where you're going. But wind navigation requires constant attention and adjustment. The angle between your travel direction and wind direction must be maintained precisely, because even small deviations accumulate over distance and can lead you far off course. You check this angle frequently using body position, snow drift patterns, and the feel of wind against your face and clothing. Your dogs provide additional navigation assistance that modern technology couldn't match. Their sense of smell can detect the scent of your home camp from distances that would surprise people unfamiliar with Arctic conditions. More importantly, they possess an almost supernatural ability to maintain direction in whiteout conditions, using sensory information that humans can't access. Taku, your lead dog, demonstrates this ability by maintaining steady direction even when you can barely see him through the blowing snow. His confidence in direction provides reassurance that your navigation is accurate, while his occasional hesitation alerts you to obstacles or dangerous conditions ahead. The loaded sled's handling provides feedback about terrain conditions that help confirm your location. Familiar bumps, ridges, and surface textures create a tactile map that experienced Arctic travelers can read through their feet and through sled behavior. Each change in surface conditions provides information about where you are and what terrain features lie ahead. Partway home, you encounter a crucial navigation challenge, a junction where several possible routes diverge, each leading to different destinations across the ice. In clear conditions, this junction is marked by obvious landmarks. In whiteout conditions, choosing the wrong route could add hours to your journey or lead you completely astray. You stop the team and dismount from the sled to make a careful assessment. Using your harpoon handle as a probe, you check the surface conditions in different directions, looking for the specific combination of ice texture, snow depth, and underlying terrain that marks the correct route home. The wind patterns around this junction create specific snow formations that experienced travelers can read like road signs. Drifts form in predictable patterns based on obstacle placement and wind direction, creating recognizable shapes for those who know what to look for. These natural markers remain consistent despite changing weather, providing reliable navigation references. After careful assessment, you identify the correct route, a slight depression in the ice surface that corresponds to the path you've travelled hundreds of times between camp and hunting areas. The route shows the right combination of surface signs and wind patterns that confirm its identity even in zero visibility conditions. The final mile home feels longer than the entire rest of your journey. Exhaustion from the long day, combined with the stress of navigation in dangerous conditions, creates mental fatigue that makes time seem to stretch endlessly. But your experience tells you that home is close, and your dog's increasing excitement confirms that familiar scents are growing stronger. Finally, through the swirling snow, you see the faint glow of light from your family's igloo. The warm, yellow illumination of the Quillic lamp that represents safety, warmth, and survival after a successful but dangerous day on the ice. The sight of your igloo's warm glow through the blowing snow creates a feeling of relief so intense it's almost overwhelming. After 12 hours exposed to temperatures that can kill, facing dangers that could have ended your family's survival chances, you've returned home successful and safe. But the day's work isn't finished. Bringing food home is only half the challenge of Arctic survival. Siku appears at the igloo entrance before you've even begun unloading the sled. The sound of your approach, the dog's excited behavior, and perhaps most importantly, the scent of fresh meat have already told her that your hunt was successful. Her smile in the dim light is worth more than any modern luxury. It's the expression of a woman whose family will eat well tonight and for days to come. Young Nooker emerges from the tunnel opening, his eyes wide with excitement as he sees the loaded sled. At 8 years old, he's beginning to understand the connection between successful hunting and family survival, but he's still young enough that the adventure aspects of your day capture his imagination more than the life and death realities. Big seal, you tell them, beginning to untie the cargo from your sled. Ribbon seal, very fat, very healthy. These aren't just proud announcements. They're crucial information that helps your family understand what resources are now available and how to plan the work of processing, cooking, and preservation that will extend today's success across many future meals. The unloading process follows established routines that maximize efficiency while minimizing exposure to the dangerous cold. Each piece of cargo has a designated destination. Fresh meat goes immediately into the igloo's cold storage area, blubber goes to fuel preparation, the hide goes to Siku for processing into needed items, bones and sinew go to your tool-making area. But before any processing begins, you must care for your dogs, the animals whose strength, endurance, and loyalty made today's success possible. They've worked hard in brutal conditions, and their health directly affects your family's future hunting capabilities. You unhitch the dogs and check each animal for signs of fatigue, injury, or cold damage. Their paws get careful inspection for ice cuts or frostbite. Their breathing and energy levels get evaluated to ensure they've handled the day's work without harmful stress. Each dog receives a portion of fresh seal meat as both nutrition and reward for their performance. Taku, your lead dog, gets special attention. His navigation skills and steady leadership kept the team safe during dangerous crossings and whiteout conditions. The bond between Inuit hunters and their led dogs goes far beyond simple owner and animal relationships. These are partnerships between species that make survival possible in impossible conditions. Inside the igloo, Siku has already begun preparing for the feast that successful hunting makes possible. The Quillic flame burns higher than usual, providing extra light and warmth for the food preparation work ahead. Water is heating for cooking and cleaning. The sleeping area has been reorganized to make room for meat processing and storage. Nuka helps carry materials inside, his small hands competent with tasks he's performed since early childhood. Everything moves with practiced efficiency. No wasted motion. No unnecessary delays that would allow precious heat to escape or allow the extreme cold to affect the family's work. The reunion inside the warm igloo creates a moment of pure satisfaction. The successful hunt means immediate relief from hunger, but more importantly, it means your family can survive another stretch of dangerous winter conditions. The meat will provide protein and calories. The blubber will fuel your lamp and provide concentrated nutrition. The hide will become clothing and tools essential for continued survival. As you remove your outer clothing and feel the igloo's warmth penetrate your cold, stiffened muscles, you experience the profound contentment that comes from successfully providing for your family under the most challenging conditions imaginable. Today's work represents the ancient partnership between human skill and Arctic environment that has sustained your people for thousands of years. But the evening's work is just beginning. Now comes the crucial task of processing today's success into the resources that will keep your family alive through whatever challenges the Arctic winter brings next. Inside the warm igloo, the seal processing begins, work that requires the same precision and skill as the hunt itself. Every cut must be planned, every piece of the animal used optimally, every decision made with winter survival priorities in mind. This isn't butchering in the modern sense, it's the transformation of your hunting success into the materials that will sustain your family's life. Siku takes the lead in processing, her hands moving with the confidence that comes from years of experience, turning fresh game into survival resources. She begins with the hide, working carefully to remove it in one continuous piece that will become multiple essential items: waterproof containers, clothing components, rope, and emergency repair materials. The hide preparation reveals the sophisticated understanding of materials science that Inuit women possess. Different parts of the seal's hide have different properties. Some areas are naturally waterproof, others are more flexible. Some are better for strength applications. Siku knows exactly how to utilize each section for maximum benefit. Under the hide, the blubber layer provides the concentrated fat that serves as both food and fuel in Arctic survival. This isn't just cooking fat, it's the energy source that powers your quillic lamp, provides essential calories for maintaining body heat, and supplies the nutrition needed for physical work in extreme conditions. The meat processing follows systematic principles that would impress a modern nutritionist. Different cuts are separated based on their intended use, some for immediate consumption, some for short-term preservation, some for long-term storage. The processing maximizes both nutrition and preservation, while ensuring nothing valuable is wasted. Organs receive special attention because they provide essential nutrients unavailable from muscle meat alone. The liver provides vitamin A, essential for preventing night blindness during the dark winter months. The kidneys provide minerals. Even the blood, carefully collected and processed, becomes an important nutrition source, rich in iron and other essential elements. Young Nuka participates in age-appropriate ways, learning the skills he'll need as an adult hunter. He helps with simple cutting tasks under close supervision, learning to handle knives safely and understand the anatomy of the animals his family depends on. This isn't just education, it's cultural transmission of knowledge essential for survival. The sinew-strong fibers from the seal's back and legs gets carefully removed and prepared for use as thread. This natural material is stronger and more reliable than any manufactured alternative, remaining flexible in extreme cold, while providing the durability needed for clothing and equipment repair in life or death situations. Bones receive equal attention, sorted by size and potential use. Large bones will become tool handles, sled components, or hunting weapon parts. Smaller bones can be shaped into needles, fishhooks, or specialized tools. Even the smallest bone fragments serve purposes. They can become game pieces, children's toys, or decorative elements. The work proceeds with practiced efficiency, but also with constant awareness of the spiritual and cultural dimensions of successful hunting. Taking an animal's life creates responsibilities and obligations that go far beyond simple meat processing. Every part of the seal must be used respectfully, acknowledging the animal's sacrifice for your family's survival. As the processing continues, the igloo fills with the rich scents of fresh meat and the sounds of productive family work. This is Arctic prosperity, not measured in money or possessions, but in successful hunting, careful resource management, and the skills needed to transform nature's provisions into everything needed for survival. The evening meal preparation begins to transform some of your fresh meat into the warm, nourishing food your family needs after a long day of survival work. Siku selects prime cuts for immediate cooking while setting aside other portions for preservation and storage. The cooking itself becomes a celebration of today's success and a source of strength for tomorrow's challenges. The evening meal represents more than food. It's a celebration of successful survival, a strengthening ritual that prepares your family for whatever challenges the Arctic winter brings next. The fresh seal meat, cooked over the quillic flame and seasoned with traditional methods, provides not just nutrition, but psychological satisfaction that goes far deeper than simple hunger relief. Siku prepares the meal using cooking techniques refined through generations of Arctic survival. Fresh meat gets cut into portions sized for optimal cooking and eating. Some pieces are cooked immediately to provide the warm, nourishing food your bodies need after exposure to extreme cold. Other pieces are prepared using preservation methods that will extend today's success across many future meals. The cooking process itself serves multiple purposes beyond food preparation. The heat from cooking warms the igloo's interior, creating comfortable living conditions despite the deadly cold outside. The rich sense of cooking meat provides psychological comfort that helps combat the stress and depression that threaten survival during the darkest months of Arctic winter. Young Nuka's excitement about the feast provides emotional warmth that's as important as physical warmth for family survival. His pleasure in the successful hunt and abundant food creates the positive family dynamics that make group survival possible during months of confinement in small spaces under tremendous stress. The meal includes components that address specific nutritional needs created by Arctic survival demands. The meat provides protein essential for maintaining muscle mass and generating body heat. The blubber provides concentrated calories and essential fatty acids. Small amounts of cached berries provide vitamins that prevent scurvy and other deficiency diseases. But the most important aspect of the meal is its role in family bonding and cultural transmission. As you eat, you tell Nuka about the day's hunt, not just the exciting moments, but the decision-making, risk assessment, and skill application that made success possible. These aren't just stories, they're education that will keep him alive when he becomes an adult hunter. The eating pace is deliberate and mindful, completely different from modern hurried meals. Every bite is appreciated, not just for its taste, but for its role in survival. The abundance feels luxurious after days of careful rationing, but even in abundance, nothing is wasted. Bones are cleaned completely, every scrap of meat is consumed, and even the cooking fat is saved for future use. Siku adds her own stories about the day's work at home-checking food stores maintaining equipment, preparing for your return. Her work is equally essential for survival, requiring constant vigilance, resource management, and skill application that keeps the family's survival systems functioning while you're away hunting. The meal extends into the evening as your family savors both the food and the security that successful hunting provides. The warmth, abundant food, and family togetherness create a bubble of comfort and safety in an environment that remains deadly just feet outside your igloo walls. As the meal winds down, conversation turns to planning tomorrow's activities. Weather assessment, equipment maintenance, resource management, and family work coordination. All the practical considerations that determine whether your survival success continues or fails. But tonight, with full stomachs and warm bodies, those challenges seem manageable. The evening meal represents the completion of one survival cycle and the preparation for the next. Today's success provides the energy and resources needed for tomorrow's challenges, while tonight's family time provides the emotional strength needed to face whatever dangers and hardships the Arctic winter brings. This is how humans have survived at the edge of existence for thousands of years. Not through individual heroics, but through the careful, skilled, coordinated work of families who understand that survival requires both practical competence and strong social bonds that make group effort possible under impossible conditions. Just as your family begins settling into the evening's preparation routines, the wind outside changes pitch, a subtle shift that instantly puts every member of your household on alert. What had been the steady northwest wind of a normal winter evening transforms into something deeper, more ominous. The sound carries the unmistakable signature of a major storm system approaching, the kind that can trap families for days and test every aspect of Arctic survival knowledge. Siku pauses in her meat processing work, her head tilted slightly as she listens to wind patterns that speak of danger ahead. "Blizzard coming," she says quietly, her voice carrying the calm certainty that comes from years of reading weather signs. "Big one. Tomorrow we stay inside." The announcement triggers an immediate shift in family priorities. The leisurely evening of equipment maintenance and planning transforms into urgent preparation for survival during extended confinement. Great storms in the Arctic aren't just inconvenient weather. They're life-threatening events that require systematic preparation and flawless execution of survival protocols, refined through generations of experience. Your first priority is structural preparation of the igloo itself. You move outside into the increasing wind to check and reinforce the areas most vulnerable to storm damage. The ventilation hole at the dome's peak gets partially blocked with a carefully positioned piece of hide that will reduce heat loss while maintaining essential air circulation. The entrance tunnel gets reinforced with additional snow blocks that will prevent dangerous wind penetration during the storm's peak. Inside, Siku begins the complex process of storm provisioning, calculating food, fuel, and water needs for a family that might be confined for 3 to 5 days without the ability to hunt, travel, or venture outside for any reason. Every calorie must be accounted for, every drop of fuel oil allocated for specific survival needs, every container of water rationed for drinking, cooking, and essential cleaning. The psychological preparation is equally crucial. Extended confinement in a small space, with limited food and the constant stress of dangerous weather outside, creates mental challenges that can be as threatening as the physical dangers. Inuit families have developed sophisticated strategies for maintaining morale, preventing conflicts, and keeping children calm during the most frightening aspects of major storms. Young Nuka helps with storm preparation while receiving education about family survival during extreme weather. He learns to recognize the different sounds that wind makes as storm intensity changes, knowledge that will help him understand when conditions are improving versus when they're deteriorating. More importantly, he learns the patience and emotional control that make extended confinement bearable for everyone. The food preparation shifts to storm-specific priorities. Siku sets aside easily prepared meals that require minimal fuel for cooking. She organizes food stores for easy access in darkness or limited light conditions. Most critically, she calculates emergency rationing levels, the minimum food intake that can sustain the family if the storm lasts longer than expected. Your equipment organization focuses on items that might be needed during the storm itself. Emergency repair materials get positioned for quick access if structural problems develop. Additional clothing and blankets are arranged for maximum warmth efficiency. Tools for snow removal and igloo maintenance are placed where they can be reached even if snow accumulation blocks normal storage areas. The Quillic lamp receives special attention because reliable light and heat become absolutely critical during extended confinement. You clean and adjust the wick for optimal efficiency. Fuel reserves are checked and positioned for easy access. Backup lighting materials, additional wicks, fire starting supplies, emergency fuel are organized for immediate use if the primary lamp fails. Water management during storms requires careful planning because normal water sources may become inaccessible. Clean snow is brought inside in large quantities, positioned where it can melt gradually without creating dangerous condensation. Containers are filled to capacity, and backup collection methods are prepared in case primary supplies run low. The sleeping arrangements are reorganized for storm conditions. The family will sleep closer together to maximize shared warmth during the coldest periods. Blankets and furs are redistributed to create the most efficient insulation possible. The sleeping area is positioned to take advantage of the igloo's warmest zone while remaining accessible to essential supplies and equipment. Communication protocols are established for the confined period ahead. Hand signals and whispered conversations will minimize noise that could disturb sleep or rest periods. Roles and responsibilities are clarified so that essential tasks continue even when normal routines are disrupted. Most importantly, conflict resolution strategies are reviewed. The interpersonal skills that prevent small disagreements from becoming dangerous problems in confined spaces. As the wind outside builds to genuine storm intensity, your family completes the final preparations that will determine whether the next few days represent successful survival or potential disaster. The igloo is prepared, supplies are organized, psychological strategies are in place, and everyone understands their role in the challenging days ahead. The approaching storm represents the kind of test that has shaped Inuit culture for thousands of years. Families that master storm survival develop the resilience, cooperation, and resource management skills that make long-term Arctic survival possible. Those that fail to prepare adequately or that lack the cultural knowledge needed for extended confinement often don't survive to pass their genes or knowledge to future generations. Tonight, as the first serious snow begins hitting your igloo and the wind builds toward genuine blizzard intensity, your family represents the successful end result of countless generations of storm survivors. Every preparation technique you're using, every supply calculation Siku is making, every psychological strategy for maintaining family harmony during confinement has been tested and refined through millennia of life and death experience. The great storm approaching isn't just weather, it's a test of everything your culture has learned about survival, family cooperation, and the mental toughness needed to maintain hope and determination when the Arctic unleashes its full fury against human existence. The storm hits with the full fury of Arctic winter unleashed. Outside your igloo, wind speeds reach 70 miles per hour, driving snow horizontally across the ice with force that could strip skin from exposed flesh in seconds. The temperature plummets to -58 F, -50 C, cold enough to freeze human breath before it can escape the mouth. But inside your carefully prepared shelter, your family settles into the rhythm of storm survival that has sustained Arctic peoples through countless generations of nature's most violent displays. The sound of the storm creates a constant roar that penetrates even the thick walls of your igloo. Wind-driven snow hits the curved dome with a steady percussion that sounds like thousands of tiny hammers working against your shelter. But these sounds, terrifying as they might seem to outsiders, are familiar to your family, the voice of winter storms that you've learned to read like a language. Nuka presses closer to you and Siku, not from fear, but from the instinctive understanding that family closeness provides both physical warmth and psychological comfort during the most challenging aspects of Arctic survival. His body heat contributes to the family's collective warmth, while his presence reminds everyone why survival efforts matter. The continuation of family and culture through whatever challenges the environment presents. The Quillic flame becomes the center of your confined world, its steady yellow light creating a sphere of warmth and comfort that contrasts dramatically with the chaos outside. Siku tends the flame with the practiced skill that represents years of experience managing fuel during extended confinement. Too much oil wastes precious resources. Too little risks the flame dying and taking your family's survival chances with it. Sleep during storm conditions requires adaptation to the unusual sounds and stresses of severe weather confinement. The constant wind noise creates a background that some find disturbing, but that experienced Arctic dwellers learn to use as a sleep aid, the steady sound masking other noises while providing reassurance that the storm continues its predictable patterns rather than developing into something more dangerous. Your sleeping position is carefully calculated for maximum warmth efficiency and emergency response capability. You position yourself where you can monitor the Quillic flame, check for any structural problems with the igloo, and respond quickly if changing conditions require immediate action. But you also position yourself to provide maximum body heat for Nuka, whose smaller body mass makes him most vulnerable to temperature changes. Siku sleeps with one ear constantly attuned to family needs, ready to adjust the lamp, provide additional warmth, or respond to any signs that storm conditions are affecting the family's safety or comfort. This isn't conscious vigilance, but the automatic awareness that develops in people whose survival depends on constant environmental monitoring. The storm's progression follows patterns that experienced Arctic dwellers can predict and use for planning. The initial fury represents the storm front's arrival, dangerous but predictable in duration. The sustained winds that follow indicate the storm's main body passing over your location. Eventually, the gradual decrease in wind speed will signal the storm's passage and the possibility of resuming normal survival activities. But during the peak intensity, your world contracts to the interior of the igloo and the immediate needs of family survival. Food consumption follows carefully calculated rationing that balances nutritional needs with resource conservation. Every calorie serves dual purposes, providing energy for body heat while conserving stores for the uncertain duration of storm confinement. Water management becomes crucial during extended confinement because normal collection methods are impossible in storm conditions. The snow brought inside before the storm's arrival melts gradually, providing drinking water while adding moisture to the air, that prevents the dangerous dehydration that can occur in extremely dry Arctic conditions. The psychological aspects of storm confinement test family relationships and individual mental resilience in ways that fair weather survival never does. Confined in a small space, with limited activities available and the constant stress of dangerous weather outside, families must rely on cultural practices and personal discipline to maintain the harmony essential for group survival. Nuka receives continuous education during confinement stories that teach survival skills, games that develop physical coordination needed for Arctic life, and cultural knowledge that connects him to the long tradition of successful storm survival. This education isn't just entertainment, but essential preparation for his future role as a provider and protector in one of the world's harshest environments. As the first night of storm confinement progresses, your family demonstrates the integration of practical skills, cultural knowledge, and psychological resilience that has allowed human beings to survive and thrive in conditions that would challenge the most advanced modern technology. Dawn arrives without sunrise. The storm's fury blocks even the faint Arctic winter sun that might normally appear for a few precious hours. Time becomes measured not by celestial movements, but by the storm's changing moods, the family's internal rhythms, and the careful rationing of resources that marks the passage of hours during extended confinement. The morning routine adapts to storm conditions while maintaining the structure and purpose that keep morale high during challenging circumstances. You wake to check the Quillic flame, assess the igloo's structural integrity, and evaluate the storm's progress based on wind sounds and temperature changes inside your shelter. Siku begins the day's food preparation with even greater precision than usual because every meal during storm confinement must serve multiple purposes. Nutrition for survival, psychological comfort for family morale, and resource conservation for uncertain duration of isolation. The breakfast consists of carefully portioned seal meat, blubber for concentrated calories, and precious cached berries that provide essential vitamins. The eating process becomes more ceremonial during storm confinement, each family member taking time to appreciate food that represents not just nutrition, but security and hope. Nuka learns to eat slowly and mindfully, understanding that wasting food during storms could mean the difference between family survival and disaster. After the meal, the day's activities begin, a carefully structured routine that prevents the psychological problems that can develop during extended confinement. These aren't random activities, but purposeful work that maintains survival skills, strengthens family bonds, and keeps everyone focused on positive, productive efforts rather than the dangers outside. Your morning work focuses on equipment maintenance that can be performed in the confined space, sharpening knife blades, checking and repairing clothing seams, organizing tools for maximum efficiency when normal activities resume. This work serves practical purposes while providing the sense of accomplishment and forward planning that maintains optimism during difficult circumstances. Siku continues the detailed work of processing and preserving meat from yesterday's hunt, using techniques that can be performed safely inside the igloo without creating smoke, dangerous fumes, or other hazards in the confined space. Her work ensures that yesterday's hunting success extends maximum benefit across the uncertain period ahead. Nuka's education continues with hands-on skill development appropriate for confined conditions. He learns to work with sinew and small tools, developing the fine motor skills that will eventually make him capable of creating and maintaining the equipment essential for Arctic survival. More importantly, he learns patience and focus psychological skills as important as physical capabilities for long-term survival success. The family storytelling during storm confinement serves multiple crucial functions beyond simple entertainment. Stories transmit cultural knowledge, survival techniques, and the historical experiences that guide decision-making in dangerous situations. They also provide psychological benefits, mental stimulation that prevents depression, family bonding that strengthens cooperation, and hope that maintains morale during the most challenging circumstances. Mid-morning brings a subtle change in storm intensity that experienced Arctic dwellers learn to recognize and interpret. The wind's pitch shifts slightly, indicating possible changes in the storm's structure or movement. These changes don't mean immediate improvement, but they provide information about the storm's progress and potential duration. Your response to these changes demonstrates the constant environmental monitoring that characterizes successful Arctic survival. You briefly venture into the entrance tunnel to assess conditions more directly, checking for snow accumulation that might block ventilation, ice formation that could create structural problems, or other developing issues that require immediate attention. The information gathered from this brief exposure helps plan the family's activities and resource use for the remainder of the storm. If conditions suggest the storm might last longer than initially expected, rationing becomes more conservative. If signs indicate possible improvement, preparations can begin for resuming normal survival activities. Lunch preparation and consumption follow the same careful protocols as breakfast, with each family member understanding their role in resource conservation while maintaining the nutrition needed for continued survival. The meal provides a natural break in the day's activities and an opportunity for family discussion about conditions, planning, and morale maintenance. The afternoon hours test the family's psychological resilience most severely. The morning's activities have been completed, the day's meals have been consumed, and the storm continues with unrelenting intensity. This is when the cultural practices and family dynamics that sustain Arctic peoples through the most difficult survival challenges become most crucial. Your family responds with activities that combine practical purpose with psychological benefit. Tool-making and repair continues, providing productive work that creates genuine value while keeping minds and hands occupied. Storytelling intensifies, drawing on the vast oral tradition that preserves both entertainment and essential cultural knowledge. Games appropriate for confined spaces help maintain physical coordination and mental agility, while providing the social interaction that prevents isolation and depression. These aren't modern recreational activities, but traditional practices developed specifically for storm confinement situations. As the second day of storm confinement progresses toward evening, your family demonstrates the remarkable human adaptability that has made survival possible in impossible conditions for thousands of years. Every aspect of their confined life, from resource management to psychological support, reflects generations of refinement through life and death testing. The subtle change in wind patterns that wakes you at what must be around 5:00 a.m. carries the promise that experienced Arctic survivors learn to recognize, the first hint that even the most violent storms eventually exhaust their fury and begin the gradual process of moving on to terrorize other regions of the Arctic landscape. The change isn't dramatic enough for inexperienced people to notice. The wind still howls with dangerous intensity, the temperature remains deadly, and snow continues to fall with force that makes any outdoor activity suicidal. But your ears, trained through years of storm survival, detect the slight shift in pitch that indicates the storm's eye wall is beginning to weaken, its internal structure starting to lose the perfect organization that created its most destructive power. You lie still in your sleeping furs, listening carefully to the complex symphony of wind, snow, and ice that tells the story of changing atmospheric conditions. The constant roar that characterized the storm's peak has developed subtle variations, brief moments of slightly less intensity that suggest the weather system is beginning to move rather than remaining stationary over your camp location. These signs don't mean the storm is ending immediately, but they indicate that the most dangerous phase may be passing. Your family might spend another full day confined to the igloo, but the psychological impact of knowing that conditions are improving rather than continuing to deteriorate provides enormous mental relief. Siku wakes shortly after you, her own survival instincts attuned to the same atmospheric changes. Without speaking, she moves to tend the quillic flame, adding just enough seal oil to maintain proper light and heat for the day ahead. Her movements reflect the careful resource management that has sustained your family through 2 days of confinement, and will continue until normal hunting and gathering activities can resume. The morning routine adapts once again to storm conditions, but with the subtle optimism that comes from sensing improvement ahead. Breakfast preparation includes slightly larger portions, not wasteful abundance, but the small increase in nutrition that helps prepare bodies for the increased activity that will come when outdoor work becomes possible again. Nuka wakes with the natural resilience of childhood, his mood immediately brightening when he senses the adult's cautious optimism about changing conditions. His questions about when he can go outside again receive more encouraging answers than they have for the past 2 days, though always with the careful qualifications that teach him to read conditions accurately rather than wishfully. Your morning assessment involves another careful venture into the entrance tunnel, where you can evaluate conditions more directly than is possible from inside the main igloo chamber. The snow accumulation around the entrance shows that wind patterns have shifted slightly, creating different drift formations that confirm your audio assessment of changing conditions. More importantly, the temperature in the tunnel has risen slightly, not to comfortable levels, but enough to indicate that the most extreme cold is beginning to moderate. This change suggests that the storm's internal dynamics are weakening, allowing some of the Earth's stored heat to begin moderating the atmosphere's most deadly characteristics. The day's activities take on a preparatory quality as your family begins thinking beyond pure survival toward the resumption of normal Arctic life. Equipment that will be needed for hunting gets final inspection and repair. Clothing systems get checked and adjusted for the increased outdoor activity that will be required once conditions permit. Siku's work shifts toward planning the food production and preservation activities that will be needed to rebuild the family's stores after several days without hunting. The meat from your successful seal hunt has sustained the family through storm confinement, but reserves are now depleted to levels that make renewed hunting essential as soon as conditions permit. The psychological preparation for resuming outdoor activities requires careful attention, because the transition from confined safety to dangerous outdoor work creates its own set of survival challenges. Bodies that have adapted to minimal activity in warm conditions must readjust to the physical demands of travel and hunting in extreme cold. By midday, the signs of improvement have become unmistakable even to less experienced observers. The wind's intensity shows clear periods of decreased force, interspersed with gusts that still carry dangerous power, but lack the sustained fury of the storm's peak period. Snow continues to fall, but with less horizontal force and more of the vertical patterns that indicate normal weather rather than storm conditions. Your family's preparations intensify as the possibility of resuming normal activities becomes more realistic. The dogs, confined to their own shelter throughout the storm, will need checking and care before they can perform the work required for hunting expeditions. The sled and hunting equipment will need inspection after several days of inactivity in extreme conditions. Most importantly, the ice conditions beyond your immediate camp will have changed dramatically during the storm. Pressure ridges may have formed or shifted, leads may have opened or closed, and the entire landscape of safe travel routes will need reassessment before any hunting expedition can begin. As the third day of storm confinement progresses toward evening, your family begins the mental transition from pure survival mode toward the active hunting and gathering that sustains Arctic life during normal conditions. The storm has tested every aspect of your survival skills, resource management, family cooperation, psychological resilience, and technical competence. And your successful emergence demonstrates the integration of practical abilities and cultural knowledge that makes life possible at the edge of human existence. As the evening settles over your storm-battered camp, and the wind finally begins showing unmistakable signs of genuine weakening, your family begins the essential work of preparing for tomorrow's return to active survival challenges. The storm has tested your endurance and resource management, but success during confinement means nothing if you can't successfully transition back to the hunting and gathering that sustains Arctic life during normal conditions. The first priority is realistic assessment of your family's current situation after 3 days of consuming stored resources without the ability to hunt, gather, or replenish supplies. Food stores that seemed adequate before the storm are now depleted to levels that make successful hunting not just desirable, but absolutely essential for continued survival. Siku conducts a methodical inventory of remaining food supplies, calculating how many meals remain and what nutritional balance they provide. The calculations are precise because optimistic estimates could lead to dangerous miscalculations, while overly conservative estimates might lead to unnecessary rationing when adequate supplies remain. The inventory reveals that your family has enough food for 2 more days of normal consumption, or 3 days of reduced rations if hunting conditions prove challenging when outdoor activities resume. This situation requires careful planning, but doesn't represent immediate crisis, providing the ice conditions and weather permit successful hunting within the critical time window. Your equipment assessment focuses on the gear that will be needed for the first hunting expedition after the storm. Days of extreme cold, moisture from melting snow inside the igloo, and the general stress of storm conditions have affected everything from knife sharpness to sled runner condition to dog harness integrity. The post-storm equipment check follows systematic protocols developed through generations of storm survival experience. Every component gets individual attention. Metal tools are checked for cold, induced brittleness. Leather and sinew bindings are examined for moisture damage. Wooden handles are inspected for cracks that could cause failure during critical moments. Your clothing systems receive equally thorough attention because the transition from minimal activity in warm conditions to active hunting in extreme cold creates specific challenges for thermal regulation and moisture management. Garments that performed perfectly during confinement might need adjustments for the different demands of outdoor work. The dogs require immediate attention once the storm permits safe access to their shelter. 3 days of confinement, limited exercise, and the stress of extreme weather will have affected their physical condition and readiness for the demanding work of hunting expeditions. Their paws, harnesses, and general health need careful evaluation before they can safely perform essential transportation duties. More challenging is the assessment of ice conditions that have changed dramatically during the storm's passage. Pressure ridges may have formed across previously safe travel routes. Temperature variations may have created dangerous thin spots in previously solid ice. Wind action may have opened leads that block access to productive hunting areas. These changes mean that your first post-storm expedition will require extreme caution and constant route assessment. Familiar territories must be treated as unknown terrain until current conditions can be verified through direct observation. This adds time and complexity to hunting efforts, but attempting shortcuts across uncertain ice could result in disaster for your entire family. The psychological preparation for resuming outdoor activities requires attention to the mental adjustments needed for the transition from confined safety to dangerous exposure. Bodies and minds adapted to minimal risk must readjust to the constant vigilance and decision-making required for successful hunting in extreme conditions. Nuka's preparation includes education about the specific challenges of post-storm survival, how conditions change during severe weather, why extra caution is needed during the first days after confinement, and what signs indicate safe versus dangerous conditions for resuming normal activities. Your family's planning sessions become more detailed and specific as the storm's end approaches. Route selection for the first hunting expedition must balance the need for productive hunting areas with the reality of changed ice conditions and depleted food stores that make extended, unsuccessful trips potentially catastrophic. Weather assessment continues throughout the evening, reading the subtle signs that indicate whether tomorrow will bring genuinely safe conditions or whether additional caution and possible delay might be necessary. Premature ventures into dangerous conditions waste precious energy and resources while creating unnecessary risks. The backup planning includes contingency strategies for various scenarios, what to do if ice conditions make hunting impossible, how to extend food stores if weather delays prevent immediate hunting success, and what alternative survival strategies exist if primary hunting areas prove inaccessible. As your family settles towards sleep on what will hopefully be the last night of storm confinement, the preparations represent more than simple planning. They demonstrate the systematic, careful thinking that has allowed Arctic peoples to survive the most challenging conditions Earth offers. Every decision balances multiple factors: immediate needs against long-term survival, known conditions against uncertain variables, family safety against the necessity of taking calculated risks. Tomorrow will bring the test of whether your storm survival success can translate into renewed hunting success, and the continuation of the endless cycle of Arctic survival that has sustained your people through thousands of years of nature's most extreme challenges. The first priority is equipment maintenance and repair. Your hunting gear has been stressed by today's use, and failure of critical equipment during future hunts could mean disaster for your family's survival chances. You examine every component methodically: harpoon points for damage, sled bindings for wear, clothing for tears or worn spots that could allow dangerous cold penetration. Your dogs receive equal attention. You check their paws carefully for cuts or ice damage that could affect their performance on future hunts. Their harnesses get inspected for wear points that could cause failure during critical moments. Their feeding and rest areas get prepared to ensure they maintain the strength and health needed for continued hunting success. Siku focuses on the preservation and storage work that will extend today's hunting success across many future meals. Some meat is cut into strips for drying, a preservation method that creates concentrated nutrition for travel and emergency situations. Other portions are prepared for storage in the igloo's natural cold storage areas, where they'll remain frozen and fresh for weeks. The blubber processing continues, with portions being rendered into oil for the kulik lamp, while other portions are prepared for cooking and nutritional use. This work requires careful judgment about resource allocation, how much fuel to prepare for immediate needs versus how much to save for future requirements. Young Nooker helps with age-appropriate tasks while receiving continuous education about survival skills and decision-making. He learns to read weather signs that indicate tomorrow's conditions. He practices equipment handling that will eventually make him a competent hunter. Most importantly, he absorbs the cultural knowledge and values that have sustained his people through thousands of years of Arctic survival. Weather assessment for tomorrow involves reading multiple environmental signs that most people would never notice. Wind direction changes that indicate shifting weather patterns. Temperature trends that suggest improving or deteriorating conditions. Ice sounds that reveal information about tomorrow's travel safety and hunting opportunities. The family's food stores get carefully inventoried and organized. Today's success improves the situation substantially, but careful resource management remains essential. Meal planning must balance nutritional needs, food preservation, and strategic reserves for potential future shortages. Equipment preparation extends beyond simple maintenance to strategic planning for future hunts. Weather conditions will determine what equipment is needed, what routes are possible, what hunting strategies are most likely to succeed. Every decision affects the family's survival chances over the days and weeks ahead. The igloo itself receives attention checking structural integrity, maintaining proper ventilation, ensuring the quillic flame burns efficiently for overnight warmth. The shelter that protects your family from deadly conditions outside requires constant care and attention to remain safe and functional. As the family settles into sleep preparation, the day's success creates a foundation of security that makes rest possible. Full stomachs, adequate fuel, maintained equipment, and careful planning provide the physical and psychological conditions needed for restorative sleep before tomorrow's challenges begin. But even as you prepare for sleep, part of your awareness remains alert to the sounds and signs that indicate changing conditions outside. Arctic survival requires constant vigilance, the ability to rest and recover while remaining ready to respond to dangers that can develop without warning. The successful completion of today's survival cycle hunting, processing, feeding the family, maintaining equipment, planning ahead, demonstrates the integration of skills, knowledge, and cultural practices that have allowed human beings to thrive in one of Earth's most challenging environments for thousands of years. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new decisions, new tests of skill and judgment. But tonight, your family is warm, fed, and secure, ready to face whatever the Arctic winter brings with the confidence that comes from successful adaptation to impossible conditions. As you settle into the warmth of your sleeping furs, listening to the steady breathing of your family and the gentle flame of the quillic, you embody thousands of years of human adaptation to the most challenging environment on Earth. Today's successful hunt represents just one day in the endless cycle of survival that has sustained the Inuit people through countless generations of Arctic winters. Your story, the story of reading ice conditions, navigating by wind and instinct, hunting with patience and precision, and transforming natural resources into everything needed for survival, continues a tradition that stretches back to the earliest human inhabitants of the Arctic. Every skill you use today, every decision you made, every technique you applied, has been refined through millennia of life and death experience. The partnership between human intelligence and Arctic environment that allowed today's success represents one of humanity's greatest achievements, not the conquest of nature, but the development of sustainable harmony with forces far greater than individual human power. Your survival depends not on controlling the Arctic, but on understanding it so completely that you become part of its rhythms and cycles. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new tests of the skills and knowledge that make survival possible at the edge of human existence. The weather will change, the ice will shift, the animals will move, and your family will adapt with the flexibility and competence that characterize successful Arctic peoples. Your children will learn these skills and carry them forward, adding their own discoveries and refinements to the accumulated wisdom that makes life possible in impossible conditions. The cycle of survival, adaptation, and cultural transmission that sustained your ancestors will continue through them into future generations. The Arctic remains one of Earth's most unforgiving environments, but it's also a place where human beings have created rich, sophisticated cultures based on the most intimate possible relationship between people and their environment. Your story today is part of that larger human story, the story of adaptation, survival, and the profound satisfaction that comes from meeting life's greatest challenges with skill, courage, and the support of family and community. Thank you for joining me on this journey to the edge of human survival. The story of Inuit life in the Arctic represents one of humanity's most remarkable adaptations, demonstrating how skill, knowledge, and cultural wisdom can make life not just possible, but rich and meaningful in conditions that would challenge our most advanced modern technology. If you found this exploration of Arctic survival fascinating, please like this story and subscribe for more deep dives into how human beings have adapted to Earth's most challenging environments. The ingenuity, courage, and wisdom of traditional peoples, like the Inuit, offer lessons that remain relevant and inspiring in our modern world. Until next time, stay warm and remember that human adaptability has no limits when combined with knowledge, skill, and the support of community.